week later. So without further ado, switch it over so we can see Ollie. Hey, Ollie. What's up?
Hey man, how are you?
Good. Yeah, I think that we can just start it off with a little introduction of yourself and what you do, and then we can kind of go from there.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for having me on,
Yeah.
Isaac. It's always great to talk to you. Yeah, my name is Oliver Keane. I'm a motion designer. I'm like a mix between 2D and 3D motion design. I'm now living in LA, but like I started my journey off in Ireland, where I'm from, of course. You can hear this big
What?
accent.
You're not
No, like
directly
who's this
from
guy?
California?
Yeah, who's this guy? But yeah, I'm from Cork, Ireland, and basically, yeah, like my kind of journey is like I've lived in so many different places. So like I lived in Ireland, of course, and then I moved to the UK for university. So I lived in Brighton, so like southern UK, where I got my degree, and then I moved up to London because I got accepted like for like a graphic design slash motion design job, and that kind of started my kind of like journey into motion design and so on, professionally. But yeah, I worked in London for quite a while, for like 6 years, and like living in London for 6 years, and it was amazing. And then got to work with like amazing studios and so on and all that kind of stuff. And then like yeah, I met my wife in London. She's American, and she was decided to come back here. So she got accepted to like Columbia um in New York, and she was like, "Do you want to come?" And we were like, "Okay." We were engaged at the time when she was like, "Oh, let's go," but we got married, and then like I got my visa and so on, and then we moved over to New York, where I met you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I
Yep.
met you in New York, through Justin and so on. I'm working for JKR, and it's funny because I was working for JKR in London,
Mm-hmm.
and I was recommended to Justin from there, from Dan. So yeah, it's cool, like connection and so on, between the two guys and like the same type of company and so on. And yeah, I met you there, and then yeah, just like I worked in New York for like 2 years, and then I moved out then to LA just like two or 3 months ago. So we
Mm-hmm.
did a big road trip from all the way from New York to California, so straight to LA. And I'm living in LA right now, so working on a bunch of studios and so on. But yeah, it's like I'm kind of like the traveling motion designer right now,
Yeah.
I feel. I'm like jumping between different countries, like different like just different places and so on. I'm working with like a lot of different companies. But for me, like professionally and being like a motion designer, um, like I like the mix between working with different countries and different people and like
Mm-hmm.
different nationalities. It's always fun to work with like different nationalities in terms of motion design because people have different like aspects of views and so on, and it's really nice because you might work with someone from the UK and then someone from America, and with someone from India or like someone from Australia. It's nice to actually work with like a bunch of different people because it gives you that experience of like um like what kind of tastes are out there and
Yeah.
so on, and it kind of gives you like you're kind of ready to work at any studio then, because
Mm-hmm.
like I've worked with like a bunch of studios like Territory Studios and Imaginary Forces and so on, and like it's nice to and I worked in a few advertising companies and so on as well. So yeah, that's kind of like a little about me in terms of like there's a lot to talk about between me, different countries. I don't want to like give I want to give like a brief overview than like
Yeah.
talking for hours about different places I worked at.
Yeah. I think it's very unique lens that you have kind of in the industry because most people like work in like a couple of those places maybe, but
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know if there's many like people that I know that have worked in like so many different like very unique like spots of like where the motion design industry is, and kind of the idea of that it's also like shifting now. Like before, like that was kind of how you had to work, is you had to like go to a studio and like
Hmm.
work inside a studio, but now it seems like it's moving like someone in New York could work in any of those studios remotely now that everyone's like kind of opening up more to that. So it's like
Yeah.
more people will be exposed to that sort of thing. So it's a good thing that you don't have to move now,
Yeah.
to be able to work in
Well,
all of those.
well, I have to stay in LA for 6 years because my wife's PhD is 6 years, so we have to stay here for for quite a while. But like, I like that because to be honest, like we were in New York for 2 years, and like my wife got her master's in Columbia, and then we knew we were kind of there, like we didn't know if we were going to be there permanently. But then before that, we were living in London, and we knew we were going to move. So it's nice now to feel like permanent, and I can
Yeah.
set up myself here and like like just kind of leave the dust settle in a way and just like leave it like relax and so on. And it's actually helping my work quite a lot as well. Because actually it's funny enough, like recently when we moved to LA, we were staying in an Airbnb for like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a call from a studio and they're like, "Can you work?" And I was like, the minute we got to LA after like a long road trip, and I was like, "I'm so tired. I'm absolutely knackered. I want to like just like lie down, you know. I'm like really tired." Even though like a road trip is, nice and relaxing in itself, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of like I didn't drive. My wife was so tired. I didn't drive. I wish I could drive. I'm doing my driving lessons now, so it's funny.
Oh, you don't even have a license. Oh, I didn't
No,
even
I
think
I
about
just
that.
got my permit. I got my permit like 3 weeks ago.
Do you have to do a test and everything? Like go to like driving school?
I'm
Or does it
getting
like
lessons.
transfer?
I'm getting lessons because the thing is I never drive back home either. So
Ah.
so like I never really had it. Like I did have a license. It's a funny story. I could talk about that as well. But I had a license for like 1 hour in Ireland, and I crashed my car in the first hour,
How?
and because my brother, like I'm the youngest of four brothers, and so there's five in my family, my sister, and then there's four of us, four boys, and I'm the youngest. And me and my brothers like joke around and so on, and like my brother said to me, he was like, "I'm gonna teach you how to drive," and I was like, "Really?" And he taught me to like buy this like really old, old like Volkswagen Polo that had no power steering, and he was like, "Get into the car," and this is all like manual car, and he goes, "Rev up the engine to the highest and put your foot down to the ground, okay?" And I thought he was like being serious and like he was just joking around with me. And he goes, "Leave out the clutch and just put it into into drive and just take off." And I was like, "Okay, that doesn't sound right." But he goes, "You think you should do it?" So I took off and I crashed into a wall. But yeah, I was 17 or 18 at the time. I was young, but like I should have been a bit more, cautious about it and so on. But now, of course, because I'm 30 years old now, driving and getting like driving lessons now and so on. But with my permit was the funniest thing because we went into the DMV, we were waiting in line for a long time. We got to the desk and I was only inquiring about my license.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes, "Okay, give me your forms," give her my forms. And then she goes, "Okay, go over there, get your picture taken and do an eye test." And I was doing it and I was like, "Am I gonna be doing a driving test today? I don't even drive." And then she was like, "Go over there and do your written exam." And I was like, "What?" I was, "I haven't even studied." I was like, "What?" And I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing." And she was like, "Just do it and it's fine." So I did it and I got three wrong. So I actually passed my written driving test without even studying. And I was like, yeah, like jumping off, going, "Yeah, this is amazing." There was kids next to me, like 17-year-old kids, like failing. I felt really bad. I was like, "I'm so sorry," and I was like a kid, like jumping around. But then they were like, "Do you want to do your driving test right now?" And I was like, "No, no, no, because
No.
that's dangerous." And I'm like, "That's like too far for me." So I got my permit, so now I'm just doing like it's like provisional license kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
in the UK and Ireland. But yeah, I'm doing lessons now, and I've done four lessons. I didn't get into any like car accidents
That's
yet,
good.
so it's good. There was one like tricky little things here and there because of course we drive on a different side of the road in
Yeah.
Ireland. You know what I mean? In the UK than here. So like the guy said to me, my driving instructor, he's like, "You can see that." That's what he said to me. He was like, "Why are you on the wrong side of the road?" I'm like, "Oh shit, sorry." I'm like jumping back in. So yeah, using After Effects and Cinema 4D is like a lot easier to driving to me, to be honest.
That's so funny. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That you like wouldn't even have that yet. I just assumed that like it would like transfer over. But if you never got it over in like Ireland or the UK, then I guess there's nothing to like really transfer.
Yeah, like I had it, but then like I let it expire after I
Mm.
crashed my car. I was like, I'm just gonna leave it expire because I don't want to drive. It actually worked out kind of well for me because it actually helped me because basically in Cork and Ireland, like where I'm from, you kind of have to drive quite a lot, and like when you're like 17, 18, your goal is like to get a car so you can be independent, like anyone being at
Mm-hmm.
that age. But at the same time, it's like once you get a car, you kind of just focus on having a car and so on. And like when I crashed my car and so on, it kind of like gave me more time to stop thinking about like, "Oh, I need a car, I need to be this cool kid." And I actually started like drawing more and doing some more animation and like
Mm-hmm.
kind of figuring out what I wanted to do, while finishing school, high school. So it actually kind of worked out well because I think like if I did drive at that time, I probably would have been very distracted, with
Yeah.
like girls and cars, yeah, kind of way. So
Yeah,
it's
I
kind
didn't
of
even get mine until I was like I mean, most people in the States, it's like 16 is like you get it like the day you turn, and like you're, yeah, same thing. Like, goal is to like be able to drive and like you can go out and like meet friends. But my best friend at the time got his at 16, like had his own car, and like pretty much we went the same places. So I was like, well, there's no reason for me to like buy a car or like get my license. So I'll just like,
Mm.
I just didn't. And kind of same thing. Yeah, I guess more of that time was invested like at home, like playing around in like After Effects and stuff, because I like wasn't like, I didn't have like anywhere to go really unless like other
Mm.
people were gonna take me. So there's like a lot more time at home just to like focus on like hobbies and stuff. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it would give you a lot more time for that versus like trying to like be distracted with other stuff. But yeah, I didn't get mine until I was like 18 because I had to for like college and stuff.
Mm.
Um, so I
Uh,
think with that, what kind of got you into doing what you're doing now? Like, what was like sort of the avenue that like took you down that? Because you said you went to school
mhm.
in the UK. So was that for like what you're doing now, or did you kind of like find out while you were at school like what you liked in doing and what you didn't like doing?
So like actually where I went to where I first started off in school would be like of course in Ireland, you know. So like for me personally, like my whole like how do you say it, avenue getting into like art
Mm-hmm.
and like animation and so on was from like at an early age. Like my brothers used to be like really like one of my brothers, Tommy, my oldest brother, used to like draw a lot, and like I used to like come home from school and like, he used to work on building sites and so on, but he used to love drawing. So I used to come home and see him drawing. I'm like, oh my God, this is absolutely amazing. I'm like, how are you doing this and stuff? And I used to try to replicate like all these drawings and like sit down. Then my brother Porrick, who was like 1 year old or 2 years older than me, used to like replicate him. So it kind of trickled down,
Mm.
like all of us want to like draw and be better than each other and be funny. And like we used to have like competitions. Like see my brother Tommy like draws someone like a picture of like my dad or something like that, and then he'd like I tried to do it and like absolutely flunk out, and like not good at it. It looked like a potato or something like that. But yeah, I used to be really like really bad drawer, and then like I like over the years, I just like started getting better because I kind of challenged myself to get better at drawing and so on. And like while I was in high school, one of my teachers, like my art teacher, like really spotted my like eye for drawing and so
Mm.
on. And then she was like, her name was Miss Sweetman. That's a good name. And she was like, I think you're a really like good drawer, and I think like you should apply for college, apply for some college and university and go on and do fine art because I think you're a
Hmm.
really good drawer. And I was like, really? I don't think I'm that good. And she was like, no, you're really good. And I was like, really? And she goes, apply for like I actually thought I'd have no chance getting into like art, an
Mm-hmm.
art college. It was, and the course I was applying for was like a foundation art and design, like
Yeah.
course. It wasn't university, it was like college. And basically I applied for it, and I thought I wouldn't even get an interview. Honestly, I really didn't think, because like I didn't really have a strong portfolio, but my teacher thought I did. And then she was like, Oliver, just apply for it and see what happens. And then like a week later, I got a phone call going, "Do you want to come in for an interview?" I went in for an interview, and then they had my interview with these two like teachers, and they were like, "We really like what you do and your drawing and so on." And she goes, "What would you like to do?" And I goes, "I don't really know. I just love drawing." And then she was like, "But like, what's your passion? What you really want to do?" And I was like, to be honest, like I'd really like to do something with computer graphics, but like my school at the time didn't do any graphic design. It didn't do
Mm.
anything, so I never actually got exposed to like graphic design or Photoshop or you know um, After Effects or anything like that until like later on, because I didn't really have the kind of the knowledge about it. So
Mm-hmm.
like they basically, while I was doing the interview for this art and design course, they accepted me in the interview, then actually sending me out like a
Oh, wow.
letter. They were like, yeah, I know. I was like, what? And like, I remember coming out, and my brother William was out in his van. He drove me to this interview. He was out in his van because my brother's like a construction like plasterer worker. And he like I came out and I was like, yes, I got in. I ran out and I was like, I got to college, and I like ran out and I was like, because like honestly, like I'm the only one in my family like
Mm.
at that time to go to college. But recently, my brother Park, who's 2 years older than me, just got his bachelor's in visual communications, which is amazing. He's the second person in our family now to get
Mm.
his bachelor's. So like I was the first one to just get accepted to college, even though it wasn't a university, it was like, foundation college. So I ran out and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I was like, yeah, I got into college. And then like my brother like was really happy for me, hugged and like jumped up and down and stuff. And then like I got accepted to this course. I went in there. It was a year long like foundation art and design course. So basically I'd never been exposed to graphic design or anything like that, but that was one of the modules, and that's one thing that I
Mm.
was interested in big time. I was like, can I try a bit of graphic design? And I did fine art, like like life drawing, and I did like a lot of how would you say, like sculpting, and I did a lot. I actually love sculpture. Sculpture was like one of my main things because I love like modular, like fitting like like metal together and like welding
Mm.
it, and like sanding it and all that kind of stuff, and making something physical. But then like I could almost feel like everything was like 3D, of course, because it's
Yeah.
real. But then I was like, what if I could just use a 3D program to make this stuff, and and so on. So like I think from like an early age and stuff, like I had that kind of like in my mind of like, there's something there with like, art and design, and like how do I hone that? So I did this foundation art and design course, and I got, yeah, like I said, I did a mix of things, and like I still remember my first day going into my graphic design class, and my tutor at the time, Rachel, said open up Photoshop, and I was like, I guess I heard of Photoshop, but I never used it before. I think I was like 17, 18 at the time. I think I was 18 or just gone on 18, just after I crashed my car. But yeah, I sat down, I opened up Photoshop, and then she was like, just play around, and I was like, I don't even know what Photoshop, like I don't know how to use this. And then she like guided me and stuff, and she goes, what are you interested in? And I was like, I'm interested in like tattoos and cars, and I'm interested in like,
Mm-hmm.
like random like stuff you
Yeah.
do as a kid. And then she was like, work that all, find pictures of it. So I found loads of references, and then she was like, this is how you cut out something, this is how you change. And then like I just used Photoshop for the first time, and I made something. I was like blown away. Honestly, it was like I felt like I was so close to the computer, my eyes and like the whole world like opened up for me. And then like I did just mainly graphic design stuff. Like my strengths were like doing mainly graphic design stuff that year, and I
Mm.
did like the fine drawing and stuff. And I had to sit down at the end of the year with my tutor Lucy. She was like the main like tutor, and she said to me, she was like, Oliver, like we think you're more of a graphic designer than a fine artist. And I was like, really? And she goes, where do you want to see yourself in the next 5 years? And I was like, I want to be a mural painter. I want to paint stuff. And she was like, that's not going to happen. And I was like, what do you mean it's not going to happen? Because you're not a talented painter. Like you're good at painting, but you're not like, amazing. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that just crushed my dream. And then she was, no, 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 no. She was like, said to me, she was like, what are you really interested in? And I was like, to be honest, like I love I love watching TV. I love watching cartoons. Like I love animation. And then she was like, "You love animation?" It's like, "Yeah." And it was like, and I showed her this little animation I did in like Windows. What's it called? Media player or something like that.
Mm.
I did like a stick frame character kicking a ball with boys to men track behind it. It was like so bad. It was my friend Chris at the time was like a massive boys to men, like fan. So and then like, I found a tutorial online of like how to like animate a stick character in like Windows movie player with like images and stuff. And I showed her that, and she goes, "This is potential. Like, why don't you like do more of this kind of stuff?" And I was like, "I don't know how to. Where do I go?" And she was like, "There's a course in this college, a multimedia course." And I was like, "A multimedia course?" And she was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "I think you should go and talk to John Halpin, my tutor. His name was John Halpin. Go talk to them." And she brought me to the room. And this room was like hidden away in the college. Honestly, I've never seen this. I was in this college for the year, and it was behind, like near enough behind the cafeteria, down the stairs in this like dark room. And she brought me, and we knocked on this door. Honestly, it felt like a speakeasy. Like it was like it was like against the law to be here.
Right.
And then like he opened up the door to this tall guy, very like very charming, nice guy, John. And he opened up the door, and he was like, "Hello." And I was like looking up, and I was like, "Why is it so dark?" And there was like beams of light coming out the windows from the monitors, from the
Mm.
from the door.
Yeah.
And I went in, and then he was like, Lucy was like, "This is Oliver." He goes, "I think you'd be a good person to just give him an introduction to what this course is." And then he just basically brought me around to all the students, and it was like a square of computers, and it was an empty square in the middle, and then the computers are all lined along the wall,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone was using 3ds Max and
Hmm.
After Effects. And I've never seen 3ds Max, I've never seen After Effects before. And then I was walking behind, I was seeing like these church models of like these students making like amazing, like crazy, like like motion graphics and 3D and so on. And I was like starstruck. I was like, this is happening in this college, and I didn't even know about it because I wasn't exposed to,
Mm.
this kind of course. The thing is, like, where I'm from, there isn't that much opportunity, to get exposure to these kind of courses and stuff. And the high school I went to, like, it was rough around the edges. That's what I'd say. I don't want to say, like, it was the worst thing, because I grew up in a really, like, rough housing estate in Cork, where, like, people, like, you don't go to college, you don't basically get to do what you want to do. You just, like, work for the sake of working, So, like, to get out of that and, like, get into college and so on. Like, a lot of people, like, said to me, I'm not going to get anywhere. Honestly, there was a lot of
Mm.
disbelievers. But, like, yeah, like, what happened was, to get back to the multimedia thing, yeah, I got basically he showed me the multimedia, course and so on, and then, like, I applied for it, and basically I got in, straight away from the interview again, and they were
Mm.
like, we really like your graphic design and so on, and then that was my first exposure to After Effects and 3D, and it just, honestly, this course that I did, if anyone ever listens to this from Ireland and stuff, like, who really wants to get into, like, motion design and 3D and so on. And there's actually, I heard that the funding is getting taken away from this course
Mm.
because, they want to burn it towards whatever. But honestly, this course, I did it for 2 years, was the best thing I've ever did, because my tutor, John, just gave me all the ingredients to turn me into a motion designer. But you can go into different, you learn web design, you learn all this kind of
Mm-hmm.
different stuff, and animation and so on. But this course, like, was so good that, like, and it gave us, actually, after the end of the 2 years, it gave us a route to go into a university. So this was like a foundation type of
Okay.
college, but then it gives you a route to go into university and get a degree. So what happened was, at the end of the second year, after doing all these projects and learning After Effects and doing a bit of cinema, not cinema 4D, 3ds Max, um, basically, I was allowed to apply for colleges in the UK, and I applied for a bunch of colleges. I think I applied for 9 colleges, and I got into every single college in the UK. And I was really happy. I was like, oh my god, I'm over the moon. Like, I got into Manchester, got into Brighton, got into Nottingham, got into, like, all the colleges I wanted to get into. And basically, I had to choose them which one I could go to. So, like, I picked the University of Brighton because all my friends in the course were going there, and, like, Brighton's a seaside town, and we're like, yeah, let's move there. It was, like, really cool. So, like, we all, like, me and three of my other friends, in that course, got in, and then we all moved over to Brighton together. We
Mm.
didn't live in the same housing, but, like, we lived in, like, our own kind of, like, different places. But then we went to college together, and it was nice. It was funny, actually, because the first day we went into University of Brighton together, it was four Irish lads, four Irish guys going into a course. So this was, like, the final year of a BA, of, I think it was, like, a 4-year course,
Mm-hmm.
and four guys skipping the first 3 years and going into the final year, going into like a digital, because it's called digital media design in the University of Brighton,
Mm.
um, going into that course. I don't think people feel threatened, but, like, just imagine random four people, four
Yeah.
Irish guys getting shipped over, going into your last year of your BA. And we were coming over, and I still remember the first day, and they were, like, asking us, um, introduce ourselves on the first day, and all four of us goes, um, I like 3ds Max. We're 3D guys. We love 3D. And all the rest of the class did no 3D at all. They're all, like, very, very web designer, very
Mm.
like, illustrator designer, type designer, so on. So we were, like, the 3D guys. And we actually, at the mid of the year, we were actually, one of my friends was, like, teaching cinema for, or not cinema 4D, 3ds Max to the class. You
Oh
know,
wow.
yeah, so we were actually, like, coming over and, like, whatever and doing it. So it was very interesting. We were like, they kind of, it was funny because coming from Ireland, you think Ireland would be a bit behind, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And actually, when we moved over to the UK, I felt like we were a bit further on, than going into this course. So we were actually helping people, and, like, I focused in 3D and motion graphics, for my, like, final year and stuff. And then, like, yeah, I got my degree there. And then I finished University of Brighton, and, like, before I finished, I sent my, like, reel around, and, like, I did a little reel and introduction to a few studios in Brighton, and, like, one Brighton studio called Ram Jam picked me up, and they, like, asked me to come in for, like, a little interview, and I went in, and they were like, "Do you want to do an internship for 3 months?" And I was like, okay. And I was like, is it paid? And they're like, nope. And I was like,
Uh.
oh my god. So, like, I was like, a 3 month, like, you know, uh, internship without pay. But then it was funny because I was working in a store because I don't come from like a lot of money, so I had to like work somewhere. So I
Mm-hmm.
was working in the Co-op. It's a big store, like it's like Walmart in the UK. I was working there for like almost like a year, not a year, like say like 3 months while I was doing my internship. So I'd work from like um 9 till 5 in my internship, and then leave at like 5 o'clock, and then start working um at the Co-op or the Walmart from like 6 till like 1 in the morning every day.
That's
Like not
insane.
every day, like 5 days a week. And then on the weekend, I'd work full days. So I wouldn't see any of my friends. I wouldn't see anybody. I still remember my graduation from University of Brighton. All my family came over. My mum came over, my grandmother. It was amazing, you know. And it was really nice because I was the first one to graduate from college. You know, it was really like proud mum for my family
Mm-hmm.
and so on. But like at the same time, I remember going to the graduation, but before that morning I was working in the co-op in my job, and I was so tired. I was like, I'm actually like,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely wrecked tired, and my family were like so happy to see me, and I was like, I'm absolutely knackered, like I can't like move, whatever. And I still even remember being in the in the hall when they called out our names and stuff. I was falling asleep while my name was getting called out. I was like absolutely like tired because I was doing an internship like the day before because it was on a Saturday. My my graduation was, and I was falling asleep in the stands. My friends were like, "Yeah, let's go out, like let's get drunk and all this stuff." And I was like, "Guys, like I want to go to bed. I'm so
Yeah.
tired." But like, yeah, like when I graduated and stuff, I like, yeah, like I got my degree, and then yeah, it's like everything went really well. And like I worked at internship then for like 3 months unpaid, and after actually I was actually not 3 months because 2 months into the internship, or actually it wasn't even 2 months. I think it was like a month or 2 months in. Tom, the creative director, brought me for lunch, and I was like, "Why is he bringing me for lunch? He never brings me for lunch." He brought me for lunch, and then he was like, "I thought I was getting fired." Honestly, I was like,
Uh,
"Something's wrong," you know. I was like, "I said they're going to stop this internship." He brought me for dinner, or for lunch, and he sat me down. He was like, "Ollie, do you want to work for Ram Jam? Um, like, we'll put you on a 3 month paid like gig." And that
mm,
was like me getting accepted into being like a motion designer in
yeah.
my first job. And I was sitting there, and I remember like we ordered like carbonara or something, or like this nice restaurant, and like, to be honest, at that time, I didn't even know what carbonara was. Honestly, I'm not that fancy. I was like, what is carbonara? And like, I was like, okay, I ordered it. And this big bowl of spaghetti came out. And I remember having a mouthful of like, spaghetti in my mouth. And he
Mm,
goes, do you want to work? And we'll pay you this much and whatever. And I nearly choked on it. I was like, I was like, oh my God. And I spat it out. And I was like, yes, yes, please,
yes.
yes, please. And then like I need to go to the store and get something, and I left. I just said for an excuse to go for a store, so I wanted to jump around. Do you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
was like, this is amazing, you know. So that was the first time like I got hired as like a designer, and
Mm,
like I worked there then for like I think it was like 9 months as like a designer, like paid designer, and then I moved. Obviously, I was working there for a while, and then like the work started to slow down a bit because they weren't that big enough of a company. The work started to slow down a bit, and then like he said he couldn't pay me anymore, so then I might have to go back to my job. So then I actually started like looking around for jobs and around the place, and I really wanted to move to London because I heard London's motion scene and so on. So I applied for a few jobs in London. Long story short, it was like I got an interview for a job at a company called Jam. They're now called WCRS. Um, they basically asked me for an interview. Went up, had three interviews. The first interview was like introduction, talking to the person. Second interview was they briefed me on a project. They wanted me to do a project,
mm,
and I was like, oh my god, I'm up against like honestly, I was up against like a lot of people to get this job. But it was mainly a graphic design job for like social media stuff. But like I
mm,
needed some other route into the motion design industry and get paid. So like I needed to get like, and I actually wanted to work as a graphic designer for like a year to get like the principles of graphic
yeah.
design in a working environment and so on. And they had massive clients. They had Xbox, they had Samsung, they had like the big clients. And I wanted to get the exposure and so on. So what happened was I um I did like the first interview was introduction, second interview was a project. I did a project, and I was told I was going up against five people. They narrowed it down, and I was like, oh my god, this is like insane. And like, why can't I just get hired? Because it was really hard to get hired, honestly. Like I
Mm,
was like, I don't think I had a range of a portfolio yet to get like into the design industry. So basically, I did the second interview. The second interview was getting briefed on a project and so on. So they asked me to do a project, and then I went home and I did a project, and the next week next week was another interview. So I had to go in and present it, you know. So I had to present
Mm.
my ideas and I actually feel like I was presenting something. But to be honest, I worked for Ramjam, but I was still fresh. I mean, in
Yeah.
London, London's a big place. You know what I mean? You can get eaten up really quickly, you know. I'm working for clients like Samsung and Xbox and so on, Microsoft. It's a big deal, you know. So I was like kind of scared and like
Mm.
naive and so on. So I did my third interview and I presented it and stuff. And the interview finished, and I was kind of like, I didn't get that job. I was like, I didn't get it, you know. And on the third interview, it was narrowed down just to two people, you know, me and another guy. And then I got a phone call. Like, I remember, like, my friend John was in Brighton. I was living in Brighton because I was traveling from Brighton to London for this interview. You know, it was like 2 hours on the train. It's a bit of a nightmare, you know.
It's
And like,
crazy.
I know. So like, if I got that job, I had to travel from Brighton to London every morning, and like I'm saying 2 hours because there's always delays on the train.
Yeah.
It should be only like 40 minutes, you know. So like what I did was I went home after this interview. 2 days later, my friend John was over from Ireland, and we were like, honestly, we were partying. Like, I don't know why we were partying so much, but we were having a great time. And like, I remember I got a phone call while he was there and stuff, and they were like, "You got the job," and I was like, "What?" And like, I know I was working for Ramjam, was my first job of like, you know, getting into the industry, but like it
Mm-hmm.
was a smaller company and stuff. This company is massive, you know. It's like, you know, it's
Yeah.
like bigger company, you know. So like I got the phone call and then they were like, "You got the job. Can you start with this? This is the salary." I didn't even care about the salary. I just goes, "I got a job." I jumped up and down on my bed, up and down, and then I called like because John was out. I called John and I was like, "John, we're going to Amsterdam next week." I'm like, "I don't care. I'm getting paid this much money," even though it was not much money at all. But I thought in my head it was huge, you know. So
Mm.
I called John. I was like, "Yeah, we're going to Amsterdam," and then like yeah, we didn't go to Amsterdam yet. I actually I paid for him a lot of stuff for my wedding last year, and I'm paying for his tickets to come over here in April, so that's gonna work out. But yeah, what happened? But basically, long story short, with this and then like my kind of introduction and getting into like motion design and stuff was, but basically I got the job in London, working for Jam, and it was all mainly graphic design. And like I did it for like a year and a half, and I really liked it, and I really progressed, and I got to work with big brands. I learned like typography. I learned like
Mm.
how to lay out design. I learned how to basically structure my route into like how to be a good designer. But at the same time, like I really liked the job, and I got the exposure, and like we won pitches for like big companies and so on. And my creative director Michael, he's like, honestly, I've worked with a lot of creative directors, but this guy Michael, like, really helped me. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't like an animator, he wasn't a graphic designer. He was more of a
Mm-hmm.
copy. He was a copy creative director, but he was more of a writer. But he nurtured me so much. He was such a nice guy that actually gave me the confidence, to grow and so on. And he left the company, and when he left, I was like, I feel like I should leave too, because like I was like, I need something new. Like I feel like the life has been sucked out of the company a bit, like for
Mm.
me, when he left. So then like they hired another guy, and I was like, this is not the same for me anymore. Like I was like, I need something different, and I need motion design. So like a job came up at like I got a phone call from a recruiter about a job in an action sports company, and it's a mix between video, motion graphics, and graphic design and illustration. And he goes, "Would you like me to put your name for from a recruiter?" I didn't apply for a job; they caught me, and then they were like,
Mm.
"Do you want to apply?" And then like I was like, I need some avenue into motion graphics because I miss it from college, you know. And
Yeah.
then what happened? Then they basically I went for an interview. I got that job like from like the second interview. They asked me to do a few projects and so on, but then I took this job. And I remember going into this job the first day, and I sat down and I was like, "Okay, let's do some motion graphics." And they were like, "No, you need to design an infographic." And I was like, "Oh God!" And like I'm so sick of doing like like 2D flat graphics. I just want to animate something. And then basically I started showing them that I can do motion graphics, And this company
Mm-hmm.
didn't do any motion graphics really. They just wanted a small bit of video and stuff. I started showing them I can do this. And I spent late nights staying in the office. And then like I found out that like they were making a lot of action sports videos for like Nike, and they were making a lot of action sports videos for like snowboarding videos and stuff and edits. And I seen the edits, and the edits were amazing. But I was like, why can't I apply graphics to these and show them what I can do? So I ripped them off YouTube. I found the graphics, the videos that this company that I was working for did. So I took one of their videos and I really liked it. But I was like, why can't I just apply my style to this and show them what I can do? So like one thing I'd say, like, if someone's like a graphic designer and they're like, oh, do you want to go into motion design? It's like if you see, if you're at a company and you see that they're
Mm-hmm.
doing video stuff, like that company owns that work. Like maybe take an initiative on yourself is just to take that video and just do something with it and show
Yeah.
somebody, you know? So that's what I did. I took the video, I ripped it from YouTube, and then I added graphics over and stuff, and I showed it to my editor at the time because this job was very editorial, and it was like, it wasn't like, there was creative directors there as well, but like, it was more so like the head of design would never look at my work. It was more so like
Mm.
I was a designer for the editorial department, you know?
Yeah.
So I showed it to my head editor Tristan. He looked at it and he was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." So he said to the head of design. Head of design loved it, and they were like, "Okay, stop everything. Oliver Keane is now getting promoted to." Actually, before that, I did another video. Actually, because he asked me basically to. I did this video, and then after that, they asked me to do, can you do evolution of the bicycle video? Do you know, can we do something around the evolution of the bicycle? So like, I had to do this around other work, so I illustrated this whole like
Mm.
bicycle like illustrations and stuff, and then I just went with it and did it over like a couple of weeks while I was doing other work, and then I finished it and I sent it around to the company, and they were like, "Oh my god, this is absolutely amazing!" And then we posted it online and stuff, and I got so much traction and so on, and then they were like, I remember my creative director coming over to me and goes, "What is this called?" And I goes, "Motion graphics." He didn't know what motion graphics was because we didn't really work in that like, that field and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
then they were like, "Okay," it's like, "We want you to be a motion graphic designer. We don't want you to be, you know, what you're doing now and stuff. Let's hire someone else for that." So they hired someone else to do that, and then they got me to do the motion graphics. And then like I remember an email went around and I didn't even notice. They were like, "Okay, Oliver Keane now is promoted to lead motion graphics designer of the whole company." And I was like, "Lead motion graphic designer?" I was like, "What?" It's like, I'm not even a motion designer. And they were like, "Yeah, lead motion graphic designer of this company." And then I was like, "Okay, this is a lot of pressure for someone that's like, I was 23 at the time. They're like, "Your lead motion graphic designer." And it's like, I don't deserve this title because I haven't learned from other motion designers and so on, you
Mm.
know. But then they're like, "We have confidence in you. You can do this and so on." So they gave me a bit of confidence and stuff, and it was great. And then something kind of bad happened in the company in terms of like, this company did like editorial stuff and magazines and so on, you know. But what happened was the magazine part of the company failed, and basically it didn't fail, but like, of course, like print wasn't selling and so on.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted to go more digital and they wanted to work their magazines online and, you know, having them in print. So what happened was they actually got rid of, yeah, like 20 designers,
Mm.
you know, and it was really hard because they got rid of 20 designers, and I thought I was going to be one of them as well. But what happened was they said, "Ollie, like, we're going to get rid of the department, but we want you to stay on as lead motion designer. But we want you to take a few of the designers that we're thinking about getting rid of and train them to be motion designers." And I was like, "What? You want me to train After
Mm-hmm.
Effects? You want me to do?" And I was like, "This is too much to me, whatever." And then like I was like, "Okay, let's do this." So I brought in designers, print designers that have been working in the print industry for 20, 30 years. And I'm here, the snot nosed 23-year-old sitting down, showing him After Effects on the screen in the
Yeah.
meeting, you know? So I was basically teaching some of the department that they didn't want to let go. And then basically that's how I kind of like grew into being more of a motion designer than like, you know, so I had to teach this department. And then I did that, and like a few people got kept on and so on. But for me, I was like, I would stay there for a while, like another year, and like I did that for a while, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the work, and I got to do some cool work. But then for me, I was like, I need to learn from someone. I need someone to
Mm-hmm.
teach me more stuff. You know, like I can't be like just staying here stagnant in a job, and it's like learning, teaching people stuff that I don't even know if I'm teaching it right. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. So I said to myself, actually, I'm gonna like look for other jobs and stuff and so on. And then like a job came along at a company called New Angle Productions in London. And basically I got accepted this job, and it was more motion graphics for like say like museums and like so on, and like motion graphics for like exhibits and like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like more like educational games and so on. So I was able to like do like UI animation and so on. So
Mm.
basically I got that job, and I left Factory Media where I was working, and like I really enjoyed the job at Factory Media, but I needed to leave to progress. So basically it was funny because I went into this role at New Angle Production, and my director Dave, he's like art director, he'd be my boss, you know. So I kind of went in there as a junior motion designer because I wanted to take a step back.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think it's good to step back before you go forward. Because if you don't take, and actually this was like a decrease in salary as well, you
Mm.
know. And I was like, I need to do this for my progression. Then like I don't want to 20 years down the line say, why didn't I take the right steps? Because I think that's important. If you don't take the right steps, you're gonna, you're not gonna progress.
Yeah.
So I took this job as a junior motion graphic designer, even though I was a lead motion designer in another place. So I took a decrease, and because I wanted to learn from the best and people like that. And I still remember my first week working at New Angle, and I felt like I got a punch in the stomach because my director Dave basically said to me I wasn't good enough.
Mm.
And I was like, what? And he was like, said to me, he's like, "Ah, I'm good enough." And I remember doing an After Effects project for him. And then he opened my After Effects project and he was like, "There's no structure. I don't even know where the comp is." And he goes, "Ollie, this is awful. Honestly, you're the worst. You can see you haven't worked with teams." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm the worst. I'm like so bad." And I got really down about myself. But then
Mm.
what I did was actually say to myself, you know what, now I'm going to be better than this guy in terms of like I'm going to be a better motion designer than this guy. This is my goal for this year: get better, and I'm going to make myself a better motion designer. I'm going to take in what he said and basically do. So I took in everything that he said and like as a motion designer and stuff, and I actually structured my files. And I remember sending over new stuff to him. He was like, "This is amazing. This is perfect." And like sometimes a bit of negative feedback is good for you
Yeah.
because it puts you in the right, what I mean, in the right route. So like, even though I was down about it, at the same time, what he said to me that made me basically, I think, made me who I am. Do you know what I mean today?
Mm-hmm.
Because even though he's being negative about it, I understood why. Because it's a job at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And like I thought he was gonna get fired, but at the same time, he kept me on, and like he was getting way nicer, and like we were getting on well. And sometimes like people need to think about like the person that's above you. They're only trying to push you in the right direction, not like take away and make you feel like sad and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And basically he like helped me. I did my structuring. I got better at structuring. I got better motion designer. I actually did some cool stuff there, and I did a lot of like R&D and so on. And he loved it, and like we loved it together. And then like he said to me, he was like, "You were really going down the motion graphics route, the 3D and 2D motion graphics route. We were loving this, but at the same time, this company is a UI motion
Mm-hmm.
company. It's not 3D. It's not, like if you want to structure yourself in motion design, you need to like just think about where you want to go in the future, think about your route and stuff." And I was like, I want to work for Territory Studios. That's where I want to work. I want to work like in that. I want to work in that realm. I want to work for like production companies. I don't want to work in just UI for exhibits and so on.
Yeah.
Because it's a long process. It's like a year-long job we could be on. And you mightn't get any work like done. You're not any work done. You'd only do like a few motion tests, but you mightn't get like everything because they're year-long contracts. That's a lot of back and forward with the client and so on. You're not actually producing work, and I'm under NDA with everything, so I couldn't share any work and so
Mm-hmm.
on. So like for me, I was like, they kind of like, what is this job giving me? What can
Yeah.
I bring on? So what happened was after I got a recruiter calling me, and like I told him exactly what I want in a job. And basically I want to be a motion designer, and I want my work to be out there, and I don't want to be like under NDA, and I really want to like post stuff and get it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then while I was working at New Angle, Dave said to me, he was like, I could get this kind of like little twinge in my head that he like, wanted me to apply for jobs. He didn't say it to me, but like I think he knew I wasn't in the right place.
Mm.
He knew I was a good motion designer, but he thought like I need to be somewhere else. So what happened was I got a job offer, or not job offer. I got a phone call from this recruiter. She called me up and she was like, "We have this job in London where you are right now." At the time, I moved to London, so it was great. No more traveling on the train and so on.
2 hour trains.
I know honestly, it killed me that train journey in the morning. But basically, I moved up to London and so on. But basically, while working at New Angle, Dave said to me like, I went for a recruiter's call, and I remember being out in the hall talking to a recruiter, and Dave overheard me talking to another company, and that was like really naive for me. I was still
Mm.
like, young enough, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. And he knew well that I was like talking to people and stuff. But he said to me, "Just go for it, all right, just go for it." And then he didn't really say that, but well why he was like saying it. So yeah, this like recruiter called me about a job at this place called AKA in London. And she basically said, "You want to go for an interview?" And I didn't think much of it because I didn't really know what the work was. I went in for the interview, and that's where kind of I could see the stars align with me as being a motion designer, a solid
Mm.
motion designer. Because like I went for an interview with this guy called Ken Coy, his name is. Really, really, like honestly, so much experience. He worked at like ITV. He did stuff for like Bloomberg. He's like really good motion designer now, and you can see he's very nurturing. You talk to him, and like he
Mm.
he was like in his like 40s, and like like I was like 25, 26, 20, 25, 24 at the time, and then he was like, I really like your work. I can see a lot of potential. Like, would you like to work here? I did a test project, and I basically got the job. And I worked at AKA for like only like 10 months because I went into AKA and the confidence I was given by Ken was insane. Honestly, I don't
Hmm.
think I've ever been given this much confidence as a motion designer. So the minute I went in there, that the first day, he gave me such a relaxed vibe. Even he said to me, he was like, if you get your work done, I don't mind if you go online and look at shoes. That's what he said to me. He was like, he goes, I don't, he sat right next to me, so we're right next to each other, you know. And he's experienced. This guy has so much experience. He's like so like he thinks in such a like lovely manner, like, and he was such a nice guy. But it was kind of a different type of person from Dave than Ken. Do you know
Hmm.
what I mean? It was like, you know, like Ken. Like I was at a different stage as well in my career. I was very confident in the motion graphics I could make. You know, I knew how to use After Effects. I knew how to use Cinema 4D. I knew how to use these things. But then Ken basically like honestly was like just open my world. He was like, Ollie, you can do whatever you want. He was like sitting next to me. I look up something in motionographer and he was like, you could do that. And I was like, really? I can't do that. You can't do it. And he was like, no, you can do that. And he goes, I want to see a test or he'll show me and stuff. And basically my idea for that job was like, I want to be better at 3D. And like this type of work was for out of home stuff. So it was for like screens in Piccadilly, for
Hmm.
like West End shows and stuff. So it was all like trailer based motion graphics and so on was very fast paced. So we have to get stuff out in a day. But like all my work was getting so much exposure because it was on screens everywhere and stuff. It was different to New Angle job,
Yeah.
whereas the museum stuff, because like there were short briefs, there were like 2 day briefs, a week brief, not a year long project. So like I was getting stuff out really quickly, and he was like, "You're really fast. Like I haven't seen someone work this fast before." And I was like, "Thanks so much, you know, whatever." And then he was like, "If you get your work done, you can do whatever you want." And like, the thing he said, "Look at shoes, okay?" The time of looking at shoes, I said, actually, I'm going to go on Grayscale Gorilla and I'm going to learn how to use Cinema 4D more. So then I went on to Grayscale Gorilla as a whole like list of motion tutorials.
Hmm.
And between jobs of finished briefs, I write a stack of briefs like this high, okay, for a week, okay? And I got them done so quickly. And Ken looked at me and goes, oh my God, because you got them all done. And he was like, I got them done like 2 days. And he was like, okay, the rest of the week, do whatever you want. And then I was like, okay. So, you know, like the next 3 days, I'm going to start learning 3D. But then that's what I did. I like, you know, over time I,
Yeah.
you know, did bits and pieces, whatever. And then like I did that for 10 months of bits and pieces. And Ken was like, you're coming on like crazy amount. This is crazy. And like I did this job for like I love this beer called Gamma Ray in the UK. And I was drinking this can of beer one night with my friend Ollie, who introduced me to the beer. And he was like, I love this graphics. This graphics is so cool. So I went home and then I started like doing a little project after doing the Grayscale Gorilla tutorials. And I said to myself, like I can do this. I can learn how to do this and stuff. And then like I finished off the project in AKA where I was, and I showed Ken, and Ken was like, "This is really cool. You should like submit it or something or do something with it." So I submitted to like this award show called Creative Pool, and like I thought nothing of it, you know. And over a few months, people started voting for it and stuff, and I was like, "What?" And I was, "What's going on?" I got so much traction, and actually, I thought I wasn't going to win this award at all. Like this is like wasn't going to win it, you know. I didn't think of anything, and I won the award,
Hmm.
and I was called to like this award ceremony, and I didn't know actually if I won. I found out on the night that I won, and I was brought up the stage and so on. And like I had no idea I was going to win it. And I remember the day before, I was sitting down with Ken. And I was like, I'm not going to win this. This is no. And even he said to me, it was small because I was up against big people. He was like, if you don't, whatever. Like that. I think he was kind of wishing I didn't because it could mean me leaving, you know,
Mm.
because over exposure and stuff. I didn't think, and that's fine because like he didn't want me to leave. That's nice for me. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah.
know, and like, you know, so basically I won the award. I came in the next day and it was all over the internet. It was like in the UK. And my main creative director called me into the room and I had to, because basically my work got printed. I'll show you 1 second. In this book. I have it right here. In this like gold book,
Oh
you know,
wow.
and like award book and so on. And like and basically that was sent around and stuff. And like it was a digital copy online and something. My creative director called me and he was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" And then he like shared it with all the company. Loads of people were coming over and like you know giving me hugs and saying this is really great and stuff. And then I was like, "What is going on?" And then like my work got so much traction, and this book got sent around to studios, every
Mm.
studio in the UK, and my work was in there as like winner of animation, you know what I mean, and stuff. So it gave me so much exposure. And on the night I won the award, other companies won stuff, and they asked me for my card because I love my work. So I sent
Mm.
over, gave my card around, whatever, like that. And then that week when I won the award, my inbox blew up. It
Oh wow.
absolutely blew up. And then like I was getting offered jobs and I was getting offered freelance gigs and like big companies like JKR was calling and so on. That's how actually I met
Hmm.
JKR. It was over that night because they won a few awards. And then I was like my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, said to me, "Goes, Ollie, you need to go freelance." And I was
Mm.
like, "What?" I goes, "I'm not ready for freelance. I'm
Yeah.
not, you know." But then like Ken, my boss, I we went for my like yearly review or 10-month review. I think he wanted to give my review quicker than
Mm.
because I think he kind of knew. And then I had my review and I basically told him, "Goes, Ken, I'm going to go freelance." And it was hard to go freelance because it's taken away a steady job. I had to do it exposure, I was like, I
Hmm.
have to do this. So I basically went freelance and I haven't looked back ever since, you know what I mean? Honestly, like still like I know it's a bit of a long story and like I know it's a long like, going on, but like I've been I've been in this industry since I finished college. That was back in 2011,
Hmm.
and like just like journey I've been on and so on has been crazy. And like that was in London, and like when I went freelance in London, I worked for Territory. I worked for the company. It's funny because when I got asked to work at Territory, that was my dream role. You know what I mean? That
Right.
was my absolutely. I was like, I'm here. Do you know what I mean? They asked me to come in and work there. Honestly, I still remember going in the first day and I sat down and I almost cried. Honestly, I almost cried. I was like sitting there and I was like, I can't believe I'm in here. I was looking around and I seen all the work that was getting produced and stuff. I actually, for some reason, I rubbed someone's monitor by an accident and they looked at me like I was a freak. I was like, this work is so good. And for some reason, I touched the monitor like I was caressing it. And he was like, what are you doing, you weirdo? And I was like, this is just amazing. And then he like the guy I was working with who was sitting next to me, Sam, was just like, dude, like your work is cool and like we really like you. And he asked me back and like I worked for JKR freelance. JKR was one of my first freelance gigs in
Mm.
London working with Dan Kay. And that was amazing, because then introduced me to JKR, and then like
Hmm.
that's how the link between JKR in with Justin happened in New York and so on. But yeah, I freelanced in London for like 2 years, which was amazing because, like I said, I worked for big companies, learned a lot and stuff. And then yeah, I moved around, like I said, from the start and stuff. But that was like kind of my introduction to. I know it's long, and I'm sorry it took a while to get through.
No, I
Um,
think it's really good for people that like want to start out because it seems like a lot of the themes in there is like self like initiation or like self like promotion is like you can't always like jump into a job that will have like all of the things checked off that you like want to get out of it. And I think
mm,
that a lot of people think that that's like, oh, if I just like get the right job, I'll like be able to start doing the work I want. But like a
mm,
lot of it, especially in your case, is like you go and like do a personal project that then like shows like the company you're at that you can do something. And I think a lot of people don't think that they can do that, or
mm,
like if they don't know how to do it, they're afraid to like, you even like took a step back and like wanted to learn from people. Because I think that like, I mean, in your case, you were kind of inventing roles, and so there was no one to
mm,
really check if like this was like,
the
industry
right thing.
standard or like,
Yeah.
at the level of like working with teams the way it should be. And it's like it's kind of hard if you're like you just don't know until like someone else you like move into a different job. So I think that that's a big thing. And like designers is like you can design and like learn design and all this stuff on your own in like a little silo, but until you like take the leap into different like roles, you can't really like compare or like know if
Mm,
you're like as far along as you want. Like there's no real way to gauge it because like, you see someone as a lead designer somewhere, but like that could mean like something completely different than the place that you're at. And like it's
mm.
hard, it's like a weird thing where like there's also the imposter syndrome where like you kept saying like you got a role and you never thought you would, and then like you got there and it was like totally fine. Like I think that that's a big thing too, is like I think every role that I've got, I'm like, the week before I'm just like, they're gonna find out that I don't know how to do anything, and like I'm never
Yeah.
gonna be able to like work here, and
Yeah.
they're gonna like fire me. But then you get in there and it's like, oh yeah, no, I actually do know what I'm doing, and that's why people hire me. And it's funny that there's like small similar themes across everybody's like different path, but I also think it's pretty cool to see like the more global version of yours where like,
Mm.
school to like, I can't believe you did an internship while working a job. I can't imagine the amount of
Honestly, like
sleep deprivation.
I think it was kind of one of the hardest things like I had to do when like starting off, because like I said, I don't like I had really grafted my career in a way. Do you know, like when people
Hmm.
ask, like I didn't just come out of university and get a job. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I mean, like for me. I think it's because being from somewhere different as well. Like I was Irish in the UK. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, I don't know, did they know that I could use After Effects? Like, do you know what I mean? Like a lot of people have a perception of like Irish people. When you think of Ireland, you're like, oh, it's like so green, it's old, it's all this kind of stuff. And I think like right now it's getting to a point that like, you know, tutorials online are global. Do you know what I mean? You
Mm-hmm.
can go on YouTube and search anything. You can get stuff from America, you can get stuff from the UK, and that's why I did like Andrew Kramer's stuff, of course,
Yeah.
Uh, like that's where I kind of started learning my full, like messing around in After Effects and stuff, and Grayscale Gorilla and stuff. And two of them are American-based, companies, and like I was in Ireland watching these tutorials, and like that's one thing I'd say, like to somebody, like if anyone's ever watched this, like you want like a way into the industry and stuff, is just like don't be afraid to like try things. I mean, don't like if you're from a place that like I was living in Cork City, like there's suburbs of a city, but then like there might be designers out in Ireland that are like out in the middle of the countryside in a rural place. You still have a computer, you still have knowledge. You can get
Mm-hmm.
like trials for software and so on. Like just don't be afraid and like try different things. And like a lot of people, like it's fine me saying that, but a lot of people back home don't have the opportunity to try graphic design and so on. But like I think it's a good thing. Try like an art and design general course if you're thinking about, and
Yeah.
do everything, because then it'll point you in the right direction. And like luckily
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's worked out. For a few people that were in my course and stuff, it didn't. And like, but I think that's more about, like you said, self initiative and going with the flow and just being the drive, because for me, I always wanted to be a designer, that was like my goal.
Mm-hmm.
um and thing is like if you have like a bit of a goal, of like what you want to do and like what kind of lifestyle you want, like working in an office and working up in a building site, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like you need like that, and you need that kind of like the drive. If you don't have the drive of like you want to do something, honestly, you know what I mean? You might need to step back and look, you know what I mean? It's not being negative. It's just like you might be wasting our time a small bit on certain things, but like it's good to just step back. Like I said, like I step back in a role, just take a step back, look at yourself, and just go, is this the right path that I'm going to go on? Just think of yourself in 10 years or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I know it sounds very like analytical and critical, but at the same time, it's like I think it's a good thing to think of, because a lot of people can get lost in like their own worlds,
Yeah.
and like sometimes you just need to like, I sound like a teacher right now. I shouldn't really, but like I just think it's a good, way into the industry and stuff. And like I think for people that as well that like graft it and worked and like given stuff not handed to them, but like I think like there's a certain working with some freelancers, I can see the freelancers that have really grafted it, and the freelancers that are like amazing, naturally talented, like absolutely amazing. Do you know what I mean? Like seriously, really good, and they're great to work with and everything, and like works out perfect. But you can see like one or two like little working habits that, like, you know what I mean. You can see, as like I'd stay up all night, as like some people might, you know what I mean, like work for an hour and just like, but even though they might get the same amount of work done, do you know what I mean?
Mm.
It's just like a different thing, totally.
We got someone silly bean that says this is super good advice, guys. So thank you for that. Yeah, I think that this is like kind of the main goal I want to get out of these is like just there's so many different unique kind of perspectives that each person has, and I think that that's kind of what I also agree with a lot. Is like a lot of people just kind of message me and they're like, like how do I get into this, or like how do you like grow in it, and like I think a lot of it boils down to just like work ethic and like initiative of like if you run into a wall you kind of have to just figure a way like around it,
Hmm.
versus like just kind of like being like, okay, I guess I'm just not going to do that, which I feel like a lot of people like kind of hit a certain like point in where they're like they don't think they can move forward with it or something, and
Mm.
like or like that program is like too expensive, or like this is like a little bit too complicated, or that like seems like just too like hard for me to like get into, or like any of those things where it's like or it's just too complicated to even know like where to jump in. Like if you want to be like a 3D artist, like where do you even jump in? Like I don't know any of these programs, but like if you just like kind of your thing was like drawing was like at the very beginning of this like trickle down effect of like you just knew it was like art in some way and like
Hmm.
creative in some way. And I think that a lot of people kind of get stuck on that, and they're just like just don't even know like what to do, and then they just kind of
Yeah.
just like they always like it as a hobby, and then it never really is like what they want to do for work. But if you just kind of like keep pushing into it and like keep progressing, and like I think the other thing is like sharing with people, like you shared to a lot of like your teachers and stuff, and they were able to
Mm,
like kind of help guide you. But a lot of people are a little to maybe a little bit too like withholding of their work, or like too like worried about sharing their actual dreams
mm,
or like ideas of where they want to go, in case someone tells them that they shouldn't do that, or like that they're not like good enough for it. But I think that, all the growth happens when you like finally share with people what you want to do, and they can like help you, especially like
mm,
teachers and stuff like that for university. I think that that's people always talk about like should you go to design college, yes or no. And I think that, if you have an exact idea of what you want to do, like maybe you could skip it and like definitely teach yourself online. But I think that like you and I both went to college, and like I think I had a little bit more clear of an idea what I wanted to do, but like I also still didn't even know the possibilities. But like being at college gives you sort of like more of these pathways of like you can veer off them at any point and like jump on a new pathway, but like they kind of have them set up for you so that like you can kind of see like what they want you to do and decide if you don't like doing that anymore, and jump to like you jumped into like the more media side of it with like animation, and then that was like really where you found growth. And I don't think if I didn't go to college I would ever have like found those pathways, or like even
mm.
discovered things inside of school of like different programs and stuff. So I think that I would definitely say if you don't know exactly what you want to do, college is good. But I mean, each person, like if you have to go crazy amounts in debt, maybe do like
Yeah,
online courses, or there's ways around it now because it's all
yeah. I
online.
think like I think for sure like I was lucky in terms of like at the time like of course I was doing it in Ireland and the UK, and at that time that's 2011, my like 2011 2012 was my last like year, and like the fees are like under 10 grand. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
compared to now here, it's insane.
yeah.
Like I remember actually I got accepted to a 3D college in after Ireland in Canada. And then they told me how much the fees were, and I was like, I can't do that. I
Hmm.
honestly, I wish I could, but like I can't do this. But like, I think there's definitely like a gap there. Like when I talk about my experience back then and stuff, it's totally different now because motion graphic design has like come on so much. Like
Hmm.
honestly, I wouldn't recommend 100% going into college right now in terms of like because there's so much like the school of motion stuff right now. Like I haven't done
Right.
any of that stuff right now, but like. Oh my God, you can get something for like a grand, a whole course. Even EJ, I can't even say his surname, sorry. But yeah, but like basically EJ stuff is like so good. You know what I mean? Like when
Hmm.
you look at like the eye design stuff, like the course, like structure and stuff is just amazing. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's like undergrad or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like you can get that education. Not for
Hmm.
free, but like what I mean? Like if you're thinking about going to college, like right
Yeah.
now, especially with the pandemic and stuff, like you can't really go into. I'd rather do one of them courses than going into like a
Hmm.
college course. I know you don't get a degree, but like it'll
I
give
don't
you
think I've
probably
ever been asked for my degree. I don't think it's ever
I
come up.
I don't think I have. I like I've been. I think like one of my first few like jobs like being a graphic designer and stuff. I think I was asked, but then like after
Mm,
that like motion stuff, no, I was never. It's more about like your real. You know what I mean? It's more about
yeah.
like what you're doing. And like I think that's important as well. It's like it's about like I think you're real now. I know a lot of people ask for resumes and stuff as well for jobs. And like I think your real is your resume. Do you know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
like your real is there to prove that you can do the work. Like you said about the imposter syndrome and stuff. Like even there recently, I worked in a job and like I was like, why are they hiring me for this job? But they said to me, they were like, in your reel, this is what we like and this is what we want to do. So they take bits of your reel and then
Yeah.
apply it to the work that they want. So I think like having a solid reel is like your kind of step into working with people and so on. So it just kind of proves like what you can do. But yeah, like like you said, going into some jobs you're like, oh, actually, why are they getting me in, or that kind of way. But they must see something in your work, because the big companies know they're not going to hire the wrong person. Just gonna
Hmm. Yeah. Then someone here says that like, it's what you learn from college, but also it looks like a lot of your like networks that you learn from. And I think that's true. Like if you, kind of what you said, like you had one of those creative directors that really nurtured you. And I
hmm
think that that's like a big thing to like look for if anyone's like going into jobs or like some of their first jobs. I feel like, there's a lot of things to factor in. Like obviously it's your job. So like there's like pay, and there's like,
hmm
the culture of like the place you're at. But I think that something early on is always good to look at is like, can you like learn from the people that are there, and like will they nurture you and be able to bring you up, because like kind of what you got into later on, which is where like you were like the top of like your department, it's like
Yeah,
it starts to be like, okay, like this is great, like to have a big title or like be head of this thing, but like I'm no one's nurturing me anymore, and I'm kind
yeah,
of having to like I'm like getting drained in that way, and then having to jump off to something else. So I think that like for younger people, that's like definitely a good
yeah.
thing to like
I
do.
think I think as well, like good to mention there is titles. Don't get bogged down in people's titles and what title you have. Because when I was younger, I was like, oh, I want to be creative director, I want to be art director, I want to be this, whatever.
Hmm.
And like, I'm working on projects now and I feel like a creative director because even though I'm hired as a freelance motion designer in 3D or 2D, um, but I feel like a creative director because I'm doing like storyboards, I'm doing like, helping out with scripts changes, like that's not motion graphics. It is motion graphics, but it's a step back, before you create something, you know what I mean? So like, I think you get to that level of like people trust your kind of judgment, and that comes with experience, you know what I mean? Like honestly, like, people trusting you that way and so on, and like I never train myself to do scripts. You know what I mean? I never did. I just naturally grew into doing scripts for projects and so on. And storyboarding, I think, came with like the art that I did. You know what I mean? Like because I was a good drawer and so on. But you don't really need to sometimes be a good drawer to do storyboard. Like I do my storyboarding on my iPad. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
An iPad app, and then I send it off and put it into After Effects with a bit of track behind. Just simple wireframe stuff so the client can get an idea. But like I wasn't taught that. You know what I mean? Really, like I knew to draw. It's kind of like motion graphics and art and kind of came together. Like it was slowly
Hmm.
coming together now, and it's just like it's there. But like I wouldn't get bogged down with like job titles because I've worked in a few companies. Not gonna mention companies' names, but that I went in and the creative director was giving me feedback and brought me down the wrong direction. Do you know what I mean? And then like I said to myself, it's the initiative. Step back a small bit. Not saying that I'm better than anyone because I'm never that way. I think from me and you were
Hmm.
talking and stuff. I'm not that kind of person. I'm very like humble. I'm not a cocky person. I'm not like that kind of person. That arrogant. I'm very like, oh, what you think of this? I'll send them a test or something. They're like, oh my god, that's amazing. And then it sprouts out off from that little render test or thing to put the project back on track. You know what I mean? Because like I've worked with amazing creative directors and art directors to not the best creative directors and art directors. You know what I mean? And like you can see the difference. You know what I mean? It's like, and I think like um kind of structuring yourself and how to speak to that type of person than getting mad. You know what I mean? That's one thing as well. Don't get mad at a freelance gig, okay? Because you know what? When you do, it damages relationships and stuff. Like, luckily enough, I've never, but I've talked to a few people, my friends and so on, and even like working in a company and stuff. Um, like I know everyone has a different personality. I 100% know that. But for me, I like to be like the nice person in motion graphics. Like you remember me and you working in
Hmm.
in JKR together. I think like I knew everyone's name at the end of that. You know what I mean? And like I knew everybody, and I knew like that's the way I like to work. I mean, that's my way of working. Like I like to know the person who sits next to me. I
Hmm.
like the person that like remember when we sat in the same room. I think from the first day. I think you guys couldn't get me to shut up. Do you know what I mean? But
No,
like
I think that that's a yeah, big thing for like freelancers. Like it's a mix between you provide a service, but you are also like a person. So like
mm,
a lot of the networking is like, who do we like to have in here? And then
yeah.
like the second question is like, are they like capable? Because a lot of times, even if someone's like very technically like the best technically on paper, if they're kind of like a dick or like hard to work with, no one really will bring them in a lot of times, unless worst case scenario, or like and I mean that's working from experience with my places. I'm sure like if you're like an amazing specialist, maybe you get brought in no matter what, but like yeah, I
Mm.
definitely know that like your impressions with the people you work with are definitely always top of mind when like they're going through their Rolodex of bringing people in. And
Yeah, that's it. Like, because even when you went freelance that time, I remember you reached out to me and you were like, "Do you want to go for like a drink?" I remember we sat down. I think that's the last time we actually physically saw each other.
yeah.
Um, and like I remember sitting down with you, and I was like, honestly, before like sitting down with you and actually, I actually felt like such an achievement of like, you know. this guy is my friend now, do you know what I mean? Because just
Hmm.
being, do you know what I mean? And like I didn't go out of my way to be like, oh, I want to make everyone my friend, but it's like just being like a presence around people and so on. Like that's why like when I work in a place, I treat everyone like they're my friend, you know what I mean? And then like it's like after I'm finished the gig is like when who actually is, do you know what I mean? Who
Hmm.
actually is your friend, do you know what I mean? But like I think it's good to like, just being like nice to people honestly when you're working on it. It's like no don't get mad and like I've been called back and so like every studio I've worked at, and like that's one thing, like it's not an arrogant thing. Every place I've worked at, I've never been not called back, you know what I mean? And like one I've worked for, I'd say hundreds of companies now at this stage, you know what I mean, over my
Hmm.
freelance career now. And like I'm freelance 4 years I think now, three or
Oh
four
wow.
years I think. Yeah, but like I did take a stint at a job as an art director and senior motion designer for 10 months, and I left the gig because I was like, this is like not what I want to be doing. Do you know what I mean? I was like, it's good. I got sold on a job that I was like, it was the first gig actually I took when I moved to the US and into New York. And like one thing I will say as well is like if you have interview for jobs as well, kind of do a bit more research. That's one thing I kind of, you
Mm.
know, um, kind of like lacked on. Like in terms of like my experience, I should have known better. You know what I mean? Kind of way. And like, but it's fine. I got a lot of experience. I got to go to some crazy places. You know what I mean? I actually got to shoot a lot as well, and got like I actually learned a lot about shooting. Got learned a lot about from a few creative directors there helped me out and stuff. And I sit next to a person, Beth, don't you?
Yeah.
Or Beth, the
Hmm.
THs, I can't say Beth. Yeah, Beth. Yeah, me and Beth sat next to each other for, almost a year or 10 months. And like, me and her, like, clicked straight away. We were we worked so well together, and I was like, "You're so good," and we were always very complimentary to each other and stuff, and so nice and whatever. And like, I left, and she left at like similar same time, and like she's really good, and like she thought I was really good as well, and we recommended for each other for jobs.
Hmm.
When we went freelance, so we went freelance at the same time, but it worked out because then it was like. I'm free here. You're free here. It's like we're on the same time zone. It's very easy,
Yeah.
whatever. And like, yeah, she worked at JKR after
Hmm.
as well, and like, it's just like connections are key, all right, for sure. And sometimes you don't make connections, and that's fine. Like I've gone into one or two companies, I didn't make much connections, but I still got called back. But like,
Hmm.
it depends really. Like for me, like my main like not achievement, my main like happiness at the end of the day is like, did I make a bit of an impression? You know what I mean? Not just with work, but like, am I a nice person or like, because there is one thing about motion graphics as well, as you know, is like say the superstar motion designer, right? You have a superstar motion designer. Some of them are very arrogant, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And like then being like really nice. But that's just the way they are, and like you just have to accept that, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
stop being like negative about it, and like this person doesn't like me, blah 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 blah. You can't really think that way because if you do, you're not gonna go too far because you take it too personally,
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's also the other thing is like, and it was like a little bit of a, growing thing outside of college. I think was like my first taste of it, but it's like not getting too upset when like people have feedback for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is I've worked with a couple freelancers who are like very resistant of like any amount of like change to their stuff, and they're like, no, this is like what I think should happen, and we should like go with this, and they're like, and the art director will be like, I was thinking something else, and like, I mean, you're like, it's always in your best interest to be like, nothing is wrong about this personally with me. It's all just like whatever the project will be, and make it better, and like going along and being like a lot more like, yep, yeah, we can definitely like work with that and like go forward with your idea, and like being open to change and open to like suggestions, and not someone that's like, ugh, I don't think this will work, like we can't like do this, we should really stick with like this other stuff. I think that I've that's the other side of it. Like, so there's like a personal side of like being nice, but then there's also like nice to work with, and like the side that you're like easy to work with, and like accepting of like change, and like able to take on like criticism and feedback and stuff. And I think that that's something that you were like you shined as well in when we like worked together. At least everyone was always like, he's so easy to like work with, other than just being nice. It's just like you were like able to take feedback and like convert it into like stuff that would help move the project forward. Where we had a couple instances of people where it's like, oh my gosh, we give them notes and they're just like, they never change anything, and it like looks the same
Yeah,
the whole time through. That's like another kind of
yeah,
art form of the freelancer that not many
yeah.
people
That's it.
talk
One thing
about.
is like get some notes app on your machine, or like, I use stickies, or I use like a Microsoft Notes app for when I'm using PC, or just the Notes app on Mac if you're using that. Honestly, even on your phone, if you have an iPhone, whatever, have a notes like tick. For me anyway, this works. It's like if someone gives me feedback, I take it in really quickly. Do you know what I mean? And I write it down, and then I have the little tick box next to it, and I just go through it, bam, 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 just really quickly having a list. Um, don't One thing I did in the past when I first started in the thing is like I take in the feedback and I go in and I try to do stuff. But then when you're animating stuff, your brain switches from like taking in feedback to doing the work. So like if you take in feedback and you're doing one piece of feedback, you might forget some of the rest. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like just take note. Honestly, just take notes. Like even when right now with the pandemic, when I'm doing a job, creative director's giving me feedback. I'm writing it down. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And they might go to me, "You're not listening." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just looking at this screen. I'm not looking, at the camera." I'm just taking down notes because he can hear me clicking away on my keyboard. But I always say I'm sorry if you can hear me click or whatever. But like, yeah, it's just like just take notes, because like if you don't, because then as well that works in your favor. If someone comes back to you and they're like, "We told you, you know, where does this come from?" And it's like, "Oh, whoop,
Yeah.
hey," it's like, you know what I mean? That's exactly what. I
Mm-hmm.
like to kind of proof myself that way. And he's like, "Yeah, when we work together and I getting feedback, it just like I remember. I think the worst feedback I've ever been given, like that nearly like not broke me, but I remember working in a company. I was brought in and I was working with this creative director, and she got me to do this video, and the video was going very, very well. It was like a showreel motion graphics for their department, and they brought me in, a big company, and then they brought me in. I did it. It went really well. The creative director said I was doing really well, and then they brought in another creative director into the room while we were, what showing it and stuff. Everyone was like upbeat. There was like 10 people in there. Everyone was really happy about it. Asked me to do little tweaks and stuff. This guy came in. He was like, "This is crap." That's what he said. And my head, honestly, I was standing up in front of these people. My head just dropped. I was like, "Oh my fucking God." I'm like, "Are you serious?" In my head, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I went a bit red. I went a bit, I didn't get angry. And I was like, "Okay, I'll take in your consideration. What should I change?" And then he didn't give me any feedback. Do you know what I mean? He just said it was bullshit. Yeah. And I was like, how do I? So what I did is like, I saw him walk around and stuff like that. And like, I saw that he had a bit of time and he was like on his screen. I peeked over and I seen him looking at like, I don't know, Facebook or something like that. So I went over and I sat down for 2 seconds and I had my pad with me. And I was like, "Hey," it's like, I can't remember his name at the time. And I was like, "Hey, can you draw?" And then he was like, "Actually, you're a really nice guy." And blah, blah, blah. I think he was just having a bad day. Like
Mm.
people have bad days. So then he gave me some really good feedback. If you're not sure about getting, feedback and you think like, what am I meant to do? If you see a person, just go over. It's hard now because
Yeah.
everyone's on Slack now. You maybe just ask a question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, let's maybe switch over to some of the Instagram questions. So we have a
Yeah.
nice one from Simon, who we both worked with, who says, "Do
Ah.
you miss potatoes and Guinness?"
All the time.
All the time. Yeah.
I miss Guinness so much. It's like I wake up every morning and like I can't drink water. I need
Mm-hmm.
a Guinness to quench
Yeah.
the thirst. And like potato. I don't miss it because I have it every day. For
Mm-hmm.
breakfast, for dinner. No, no, I just kidding. But yeah, no, actually, I miss Irish stuff. Actually, to be honest, no, like it's good actually to say that because like I got married last November in Ireland, and that's the last time I was at home. I know with the pandemic I
Mm.
can't go home,
Yeah.
and it's kind of worrying because it's like if something happened to someone in my family, I can't go home. I mean, it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like I don't know what to do. And like I miss my friends. I mean, like we all have our like everyone does, we have WhatsApp groups and we're talking and
Yeah.
stuff. And it's like I do miss, the Irish, like, the Guinnesses and like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like I lick my lips now thinking of Guinness. Thanks, Simon.
Then we got another one that's uh, from your experience, which render engine, of the render wars, Octane or Redshift, do you um like using now, and do you use both? Like, which one are you seeing more in studios, which is always a hot topic.
um, I'm actually seeing a lot more Redshift in studios, but it's funny because like I've seen Redshift a lot, and then I get brought on a job, and I see like a call sheet for a job, with all the
Mm-hmm.
names of like who you're working with and whatever, and then you see like the title for what the person is doing in a job or something, and then I see a lot of Octane pop up. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, and then you see Redshift sometimes, and then it's like I think it just depends on what studio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Honestly, it just depends. Like generally right now, I'm doing a lot more Octane stuff. I want to do more, Redshift, but like it's because I've been using Octane for longer. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It's like if someone comes to me with a gig and they're like, it's a 3D gig, and they're like, "Can you get this done?" I'm not going to jump into Redshift because right now, because I don't have the 100% knowledge. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to waste time. I use Octane right now because I've been just using it for that long. And I think a lot of people are in a similar situation. That everyone used Octane first, probably
Mm-hmm.
because the whole like Max on buying Redshift. You know what I mean? It's been
Yeah.
a big shift. Yeah, but like I think everyone kind of I don't know. I could be wrong, but like for me, what I saw, everyone started kind of with Octane. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of studios I worked with, even when we were working together, everyone was working on Octane at the time. So yeah, I think like I don't really know where it's going. Like I still think like Redshift will probably take over because um, Maxon buying it. Like it's kind of like why didn't Maxon buy, you know, Octane? Do you know what I mean? Maybe in the future they might buy two of them and you don't know. That'd be great. But like yeah, I like right now. I don't think anyone has an answer right now. What's the
Yeah.
which what they're going to use. But like for me personally, I'm using Octane because it depends on the job. But if I took a job on and they're using all Redshift, I'm going to have to switch to Redshift. You know what I mean? I think you need to be flexible. Do you know what I mean? Right now with
I
that
think,
kind of
yeah.
stuff.
I think that's the biggest thing is like not to like put all your eggs in one basket, but like I think
Hmm.
that like if you know one, you know pretty much all of them. I mean, there's like secret little things you have to keep in mind for each one, but like the general idea at this point, at least if you're going like through a GPU rendering system, is like it's all fairly similar and like how things are
Mm.
set up. But I remember back in the day, it was like kind of like a wild wild west for like each renderer. If they were all CPU renderers, it's like how are they tackling how to do this? But like now, I think between the two, like that and Arnold and Redshift, like
Mm.
they all pretty much speak the same language. So or like if you've been comfortable in Octane, you'll like at least know what to Google if you
Mm.
like are forced to do a Redshift job. But yeah, I don't think I've seen one more than the other. I've seen Redshift at least just for speed, but it looks like Octane stuff is like catching up with all their updates of making it less biased or
Mm.
unbiased. So I think both will be totally fine.
Yeah,
Another one
for sure.
was what do you do that consistently kicks you into a creative flow? I know that like pandemic stuff is like always a big like burnout because we're kind of working from home and living at work all in the same area, and kind of gives more leeway, especially in motion design, for like later nights. So is there anything that you do that kind of gets you out of like being burnt out on a job, that gets you back into like creative thinking when you're kind of stumped, like go for walks?
Yeah. I'd say like what I like to do, like my main I don't do it every day, but I wish I did it. Like I try to like, wake up and go for like a run or like every morning I try to get up and do a bit of exercise. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
I do half an hour exercise minimum every day because like I have to because I actually have a really bad back. So car crash. So I kind of hurt my back in that little car crash I had, and I have a bad back. So like I need to actually. It's kind of like a curse in this guy. I don't know how you say that. It's like my back hurts me, but it makes me go for runs and walks and
Mm.
stuff like that. But it's almost like a reminder.
Yeah.
Like it's not constantly hurt me, but like I have to do half an hour exercise every day to keep me, physically like not
Mm-hmm.
stiff, and you know what I mean. So like that's kind of my prompt to do it every day. I know not everyone has that. That's good. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But like I have to do it myself. But like I go for like my morning routine is like wake up a bit early, go for a run, or do a half an hour exercise. You don't have to do like I do hit training, so like as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's only like a half an hour. Like you can get these hit training programs for like $50 for a year. It's
Yeah.
great. It's like a little personal trainer than going to a gym. But yeah, I do that, and then like in the morning to get my creative juices going, I come with my coffee into my desk, I sit down, I open up like Dribble, and I open up like
Mm.
Behance, I open up stuff like that, and I just see what's there for new for the day. I mean, I honestly like to give me inspiration and stuff because I think like it's good to take in fresh stuff in the morning. You know what I mean? Because like I do my best work in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Like the minute I start, um, like it's my best time, you know what I mean? So like what I like to do is like take in like at like 20 minutes or even 10 minutes. Sometimes it can be less because I might get up a bit later and do workout later, but at least take in like 5 to 10 minutes of like stuff online, go on Pinterest, you know what I mean? Just take in, and like I like to like, save like a folder on my desktop, just like
Mm-hmm.
ideas, inspo, and I just save them in, honestly. And then like later on in a project, and actually, you know what's actually really good, like as everyone knows on Instagram, is my Instagram save posts are like my
Yeah.
I think is I don't that's not shared with anyone. It's my own stuff. As even there last week, someone asked me to do some type design, like stretching type design and so on. And then I was like, actually, I've seen some inspo for that. I went on there and like I had it saved, you know. So like between Instagram, like motion stuff, I try to not look at my phone too much because looking at your phone in the morning can be a bit too, too much. But like, yeah, I just go on like dribble, take some inspiration in, and then like whenever I start my gig, then at least I have I might have enough knowledge, Jen, do you know what I mean, from little things and so on. I might look at one piece on Dribble or on Behance for like, the whole time. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Analyze it, look at it and stuff like that. And like, thing is like, you're in this industry. If you're in this industry as a motion designer, you have to love it. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like, like if you're in this industry and don't really love it, do you know what I mean? There might be, it might be a bit of. I see some people that really love it and then don't, and you can see the difference. Do you know what I mean in
Mm-hmm.
their work? You know what I mean? Like, like I worked with you, and you can clearly see that you love what you do. Do you know what I mean? And like that's good. Do you know what I mean? Like and like same with like Simon and Justin as well. Do you know what I mean? You can see the guys love what they do. You know what I mean? And it's like and that's great. Do you know what I mean? Because like it gives you like this kind of like lift. Do you know what I mean? Of like but it is interesting to hear like people's the creative flows and stuff. But yeah, mine is like wake up, do a bit of exercise, and then jump onto Dribble or Behance, just look through stuff. And then like start my day then like working. If I have days off, because like I'm actually going to start doing After Effects tutorials.
Mm.
So I'm going to start like doing a whole beginning course to After Effects, my own like teachings and so on. Because there's little tricks like I said, I worked at a company and a guy like absolutely gave out to me, like shouted at me, like saying your structure isn't good and so on. Do you know what I mean? And like that came with me and I still have that, but I'd like to teach people that as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, as you
Yeah.
can show After Effects tutorials, you can show, tutorial. Oh, that looks cool, but like, it's not. Are you using it right? It's just like, is it easy to pass
Mm-hmm.
over to somebody else? Do you know what I mean? It's like because like I worked with motion designers that I thought were amazing, and then they leave, okay? I opened up their files and I'm like, where the fuck is their main comp? You know what I mean? It's like, where is your main comp? Like, what is? And then like you have to get their number. You need to ask them, and then they're like, oh, it's called comp 1 2 3 4 5. You know what I mean? Like, and then you're like, are you effing serious?
Mm-hmm.
This is insane. And like for me, if I take over some After Effects project, I remember before I took over someone's file and I put everything into structures, I put into names, all this stuff, and they came back into the project. I got a text message off him and goes, "Man, you're a god," jokingly, you know. And then I was like, "I'm a god." He goes, "What is he talking about?" And he goes, "Who is this anyway?" I didn't even have the guy's number. And he's like, "You just saved me so much time because I didn't handing over this file. It's easy and stuff, you know." And I think like it's just a respect little thing. You know what I mean? Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, when I worked for a guy that like gave me a messy, really messy file, and he said everything's very clear and whatever. I actually lost respect. You know what I mean? As a motion designer, I actually like you're really good, but you could have took that little extra time to make my job easier. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think I'm kind of digressing from the what I'm saying, but basically, uh, yeah, just be clean. That's all.
Yeah. What's what's your like Everest project? Like what's your like total dream one? Because your dream was sort of like working at Territory, and that was kind of like your original goal to like when you wanted to get into it. But like, do you have a new one now that's like kind of like a dream project or a dream place to work at?
It's not really been like I think it's just like my next step over a couple of years. Like I'd like to be a creative director. I
Mm.
really would. In motion design and like I've been working in places where I was like senior motion designer, like you said, and like I've been that first senior motion designer, lead motion designer job I told you about. Um, I didn't have that much experience. But then I went on to another job where I was senior motion designer, and then I was actually like training people below me, and I really enjoyed that. Actually, it was really fun, like because I really like helping people progress and so on. And I think it comes to like I do have a dream project of like I like to work on big titles and I like to work on like every motion designer, but like it's more so like the team and effort together. Do you know what I mean? Like I want to work on
Mm-hmm.
a project that like I have like a good solid five motion designers. I could be the like lead. It's not being too micromanagey. It's by getting the right ingredients for this like meal that we're gonna make. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like yeah, I'd like to be like the overseer and like helping those like progress. Because
Yeah.
like over like a few months, I'd love to just see like people progress, you know, and like get them
Mhm.
better and like, you know, make them who they are and so on. Because like I even helped a few designers over the years, and like when they say to me, like sending me messages going, "Oh, you helped me so much," or even like a text message, Is there a quick way of doing this?" I actually really enjoy that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, and I'm
Mhm.
always like, even after this, like my website's online. If ever anyone ever needed like help of like, you know, something, I'm an open book that way. I mean, I like doing that, you know,
Yeah.
and it doesn't distract me because it makes me, if I see the end product from them, I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean? But like at the same time, I'm going to be working on that project too, you know what I mean? So it's like you're adding all these different people's flares with your own, and it's like really nice. So that's kind of like my kind of projects I'd like to work on, and like if we
Mhm.
got to work on every like job, would be like a title with that structure. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Not just on my own. You know what I mean? Like I like doing stuff on my own. I do, but like I kind of you like I can hear I talk a lot. I like working with other people. Do you know what I mean? It makes my day go, you know, go well and so on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my dream project. And like, yeah, if I could get more of that, like I am doing a lot more title stuff now at the moment, and I'm doing a lot more. So I'm like, because my dream was to be a designer, and like
Mhm.
first was to be a designer, you know, when I went to college and stuff. And I remember getting my first job after being an intern. I was like, where do I go now? You know what I mean? Because like from a person from where I'm from, you're not really. It's very rare you get like how many Irish designers do you know? Like there's one
Yeah.
or two, you know, designers that you know like that are working like at a really high level in motion design and stuff. But like there's not that many. Do you know what I mean? If you think about it, do you know what I mean? There's not really that many compared to like Americans, English, you know, and so on. You know, so like for me, like my dream was to be a designer. Then I got it, and I was like, where do I go from there? But like, I think it's like your dreams always shift. You know what I mean, especially in this industry. Do you know what I mean? And like mine right now is to be a creative director at a studio, and like you know, really, or even my own studio because I'm still doing my own studio bits. But like,
Mhm.
um, I'm still trying to get people to come with me and get the right projects. Because like for me, like I have my own like so keen like little mini studio, but like I'm kind of a small bit like hesitant to jump into jobs yet because the pandemic and like you know like it's not an excuse because like at the same time it's like you can start up a studio and you can do all this stuff, but at the same time it's just about the right timing, the right gigs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, do you want to go down as a social media motion designer or do you want to be a production motion designer? Like a lot of people have a lot of work for social media right now, but is
Mhm.
that the right work to take on to put your studio in the right way? You know, I mean, anyone opening a studio, like if you get stuck into one little niche thing,
Mhm.
you can just be known for that. You know what I mean? So it's just taking your time and so on. So like for me, dream project more so doing titles and like doing social media type stuff
Mhm.
and do more like higher scale production type work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We have a question from the chat that says, "Do you have any recommendations for projects that newbie motion designers should work on to put in their reel?" Um, yeah. I mean, I'll open it up to you first, but I think that I would just say that like personal projects of any kind are always great because then you don't really have to worry too much about like fitting something that you don't like doing into your reel. So
Mm.
I'd always say just like really anything that you like working on, do a personal project of it, throw it in your reel. But what do you think of that? Of when you like look
Yeah,
at reels or hiring people, like what are things that stick out to you that people should have in?
like I agree. It's like yeah, like I think the best way to start a project, anyway, for me, you know, a personal project, pick something you're passionate about. You know what I mean? Like a subject matter. You know, like for me, remember I told you I did that like can animation thing, the bear, because I love bear. I did like a bear animation. You know, so Irish. I did a bear animation because I was like, I like this thing. Like, you know, what I mean, this is
Mm-hmm.
fun. This is like, you know, pick something that can keep your attention. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, like a lot of people do like Star Wars stuff and so on. You know, because they like doing it. Like I know you're doing a bit of that kind of stuff. It's like
Mm-hmm.
because it keeps your attention span. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're going to start a personal project, say like you see a trendy motion graphic, say like we said stretch type or like textured like noise type graphics, that's character animation and so on, and more vector stuff. That's cool, but like you could do that. Yeah, you can go down a tutorial, but like pick something that you're passionate about. You know what I mean? Like so people are passionate about cars, people are passionate about like I'm
Mm-hmm.
passionate about bear and technology and so on. Just pick something that you're passionate about. Say like for instance, if I was going to start a project right now, a personal project, I'd pick like for myself something that I'm passionate about, like something Irish. Do you know what I mean? Like something like we have a sport back home called hurling. It's like this little bat behind me. I don't know, can you see it? Yeah, it's right
Oh
there.
yeah, that little
Yeah, like
stick
it's
thing.
like it's yeah, a little stick. That's a traditional Irish sport. I mean, I'm really passionate about it and stuff like that. I'd like to make, even though it's not worldwide, it's like, I mean, something I like. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's a personal project. It's probably something different, and so on. So I think like pick something you're like I picked that as a subject, and then I'd look up like trends and stuff like that and stuff that you like, and then marry stuff together. So just basically pick your subject matter, pick like say type animation, vector animation, whatever you like doing, and just marry stuff together slowly. And then like, and always before as well doing a project, if you're thinking about doing a big project, just kind of do a mini script for yourself, do a mini sketch before you jump in, because sometimes you can get lost in programs and like you can go down a rabbit hole of tutorials and stuff. Just kind of sit back, look at like what you want to do and the messaging behind that. Could be an advertising thing, but at the same time, if you want to progress your skills, do little tests. Do you know what I mean? Don't do a full animation. Do 5 tests of
Mm-hmm.
like for me using hurling and say typography stretch animation. Okay, two of them together. Okay, with a bit of 3D models of the bat and the hurl and stuff like that. That's 3 different things, but like try that in one comp. You know what I mean? For like five
Yeah.
seconds. Then the next comp, try something different, different colors. Maybe it's a progression from that, and then you're gonna hit the sweet spots. It's like render tests working at a company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think that it's that, or like if you want to learn something. I think that that's where a lot of my personal projects come from. Is like I wanted to learn something and teach myself, and then you can kind of also get like more for like bang for your buck, is that you can like kind of then gear a whole like short little animation around it, and then you have this like 10 seconds in your reel that like you learned something, you learned how to do it, you made it look in a style that you like would like to produce again or do work that looks like that. And then like you didn't, I mean, in like maybe a week or so you've learned something new, got something in your reel, and then if anyone looks at your reel and they're like, oh, we like this one section, that like, oh cool, I've taught myself how to do that, so I should be able to do it. I think that that's sort of when you start pulling only from your client work, it becomes hard to find stuff that just you did, and then maybe people
Mm.
are asking you to do work on parts of the shot that you didn't work on, which becomes a whole different like messy part of it. When maybe they liked a certain part of it and you weren't really that heavily involved if it's a big team project. So that's also another reason I just keep it all to 100% stuff that I've done, is that I know that if anyone pulls anything from my reel, it's something that I've done all on my own, and so I should be able to do any part of it that they like. But yeah, I think that that's a good advice for newbies trying to make the reels. I remember back in college, that was like a big headache of mine, was that I just didn't have any client work. So out of
Mm.
necessity, it grew out of just personal projects. And then I've just kind of kept it that way because it really gears like the work that I get based off that is all in the style of stuff that I already liked making.
Yeah, I think as well as like sometimes if you're stuck for an idea as well, like I did it in the past. Like I remember the first graphic design job I got. I had mainly motion graphics work in my portfolio, in my on my website, and they were like, I was like, why am I getting hired for a graphic design role? Even though I needed a route into the industry, but I made like a really really crappy, okay, Beats by Dre animation. It was so bad. It was like honestly, it was like straight out of the box After Effects and stuff like that. But like I did it, and I was like, oh, it's Beats by Dre, branding and stuff. And then like I remember I got interviewed just really on that project
Hmm.
because the person said he liked it, and then I was like, but I didn't do it for a client. But he goes, yeah, but you could see the potential. The creative director said to me,
Hmm.
you could see the potential and where you can go with that type of work. So I think like if you're struggling, do you know what I mean? Like I said, with the subject matter and stuff. Like I was down about hurling and stuff. Um, if you like a brand, pick it, okay, animate it, and then like it might come out of it. And if you're in an interview and they're like, oh, is this client work? I wouldn't say yes. Like I didn't say it's client work. I said I just like the brand and I thought this I could elevate it a bit more.
Hmm.
So like if you're stuck, pick a brand that you like, animate it up, and it'll be easier for you.
Yeah, definitely think that's good. Is there kind of as we come to a close, is there any projects? I know you said that you're going to be starting After Effects tutorials. Are there any projects that we should look at, or anything you want to kind of have people
Um,
direct to?
yeah, I'd say like in a couple of I'd say in a few weeks' time, I'm going to be making like Oliver Keane motion design on. It's not a channel yet on YouTube, but I'm just basically gearing up to it and stuff because I actually these tutorials that I'm making, a company hired me to actually teach their whole creative department while I was freelance. It was actually really nice, like how would you say, uh, like I felt very proud that, like, because it was a bunch of motion designers working there for years. I came
Mhm.
in for a couple of months, and then they were like, can you train uh the whole creative department in After Effects? And I was like, really? And they're like, motion designer, like, yeah. And he goes, can you like step up in front of people physically and actually teach them how to use After Effects? I was absolutely like starstruck. I was like, what do you mean? I'm like you have motion designers here, 3D motion designers, everybody, and then like the guy I was working with, he's like the creative director, was like, we like the way you like you structure stuff. We like your way of working is so like easy to work with and stuff. We want you to teach that to other people. So they basically, I did this whole like, 23 24 step process in introduction to After Effects, kind of beginner, and I just kind of taught it in the way I kind of taught over the years, you know what I mean? Because like it's funny, when I said I was the lead motion designer at a place and I wasn't doing it right, and then I went to another place and then I was showing how to do things, in a different way. I kind of took all the stuff I learned and kind of put it into this, like,
Mhm.
tutorial thing, like mistakes, and you know what I mean? It's not telling you like being arrogant, going, this is the right way to use it. This is the way I use it, And if it helps you, that's how you should take it on, Because I'm not saying there's all different ways to use After Effects
Mhm.
and different kind of stuff, but like, yeah, these tutorials are going to be 20, 23, 24 step process for beginner, and then it goes into like projects for beginner projects, like doing 7 like industry standard After Effects projects, and then after that, when you're done, you can go into intermediate. I made another intermediate one that's like a few more steps, and then after that it's intermediate projects. So I'm just kind of like starting first, helping people, because like I said, this is more geared towards people that like don't have the opportunity like I didn't
Mhm.
in school back home, like I'm giving them a way that's like, you don't have to go to college. We talked about that already, I just want to show them, and I know there's tutorials out there already, amazing tutorials. Like one of my friends has a whole introduction course. It's absolutely amazing. But the thing is, like, he's not really a motion designer, he's a graphic designer, and it's amazing. But like there's a few little things I was looking at that was like, in the motion industry it's a bit different,
Yep.
so like, yeah, like, yeah, that's probably a good place to direct. It's not up yet, but like I'd say in like 2 weeks time there's going to be an Oliver Keane motion design channel on YouTube, and I'm making PDFs to send around and project files and so on, and like it's just helping people like, get up to, my goal is like to teach you all the stuff that I've learned, and basically bring you into like the motion design industry, so you can just take everything you need to kind of progress. And I'm going to make cinema 4D ones after that and so on. But like, I'm just going to take my time, because right now I'm working on projects. It's really hard to get time
Yeah.
to do, as you know, like these videos, like working between projects and doing my own, my own stuff,
Mhm.
like my videos and so on. So what I'm going to do is like, take my time. I'm going to get done right, because I don't want to rush it, because
Yeah.
you rush things too much, you might, not get the right information and so on. So yeah, just look out for Oliver Keane motion design on YouTube. And yeah, should be up in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I think there's
No
lots of
worries.
good nuggets in here for people. And this will be up on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'll throw the links to some of your channels whenever those get up, and then people can just direct to there. Awesome. Thank you so
Perfect.
much. Thanks everyone for stopping by, and
Thanks, guys.
see you later. See ya.
All right.